Greetings friends and welcome back to another altered video. Another favourite of mine. We're coming back with Basira and Kaizaimon. Gone under a small rebuild from the last time we played this deck. Um, and I'm interested in seeing how it's going to go. Tinkered with it a lot, ended up on this, and we'll see how we go. There's been a couple of card changes that I'll go through. First things first, we're a little bit further off the ramp package, so there are no mighty Djinns. Just relying on the tiny Djinns to get ahead there, plus one other card, but we'll get to that one later. We've added fire rabbits to the deck as a way to cheaply give other cards boosts. Works with the tiny Djinns, works with the Kluts, works with a bunch of other things. Just a 1 mana way to activate Basira as well. So, big fan of that one. This deck is very low to the ground, and what that means is that our 3 little pigs should be easier to activate if we're not playing it as part of our combo, which is still in here with the Foundry Armorer. Go back and check the other videos if you do not know what I'm talking about. But yeah, 5, 6, 7 mana, drop a little pigs, few 1-drops. Easy way to get a lot of power onto the board. We're off Merry Reunions, and we've replaced those cards in the deck with copies of the Mess. So if we can get down one of these early, we should be able to draw a lot of cards. Drawing cards instead of resupply is important. That's why we're running the rare, because you don't want your opponent to see what it is that we could have in store for them. And ripping through more of your deck is always good. To assist with that, we've also got some pastry chefs. So we no longer have access to the Mighty Djinn, which ramps and draws a card, or draws a card, I should say. But we've recreated him in the aggregate. We've made our tiny Djinns easier to boost on the early turns with the fire rabbits, and we've also added a few other ways to draw cards in there. And the last part of that little equation is this Haven Warrior. So a 4-cost, 3-cost for 5/3/3 in stats. When she goes to reserve from the expedition zone, if she has one or more boosts, put the top card of your deck into your mana zone. So this can be scary. If we don't have the combo in hand, there is every possibility that we just throw it into the mana zone. And have that as a late game win con just revoked from us. But it's a good way to get a few cards in there. To help facilitate that, we're back on helping hands. We've taken out the Aoife and Floral Tent as an option in order to get Duel of Grits into the board. And we've thrown some helping hands back in there to try and, cover that one. So a slight way to recoup card advantage. Getting an extra trigger out of a card that's in reserve going to be really good. Haven Warrior and Helping Hand, 5 mana. You get 7/5/5 worth of stats, so that's good. If you trigger Basira with it, and it'll ramp you every turn that you can cycle that through. Good way to accelerate into the late game. Apart from that, I've just been mucking around with a few commons. So we've got a Fun of One of Mana Eruption in here if we do ramp ahead and we have something important that we need to deal with. Just use that as a bit of an emergency button. And we've got one more remaining copy of a Clut at common. We're probably going to look to change that one after this, but we'll see. If this one isn't too stressful, if we do still get ways to activate it with like our Keelan Cylinders, our Fire Rabbits, that kind of thing, we may go back down, but we're going to try out the rares today. Very notably good card, so excited for that one. A little bit more interactive. We got the Duel of Grits, which can really muck with your opponent's turns if you get rid of something that they've played from hand. It's a bit lower to the ground, so Doesn't see as much of the value as it does in the Itzardi Surge deck, but we're trying it anyway. You know, discard rather than sending to reserve. Pretty big deal. Alright, not too much more to go on other than that, but let's get into it. I'm going to see you in game 1. Alright, and here we are with game 1 of Basira and Kaizaimon. Time for another video, small rebuild. Done alright. See how we go. I am sorry, I'm going to eat a snack. I'm doing this, and we're against an Itzardi Surge, so they're most likely going to ramp ahead of us. The Haven Bouncer could catch out a Tiny Djinn next turn. So we could think about that if they play it slow. Gets blown out by them also having a Fire Rabbit in hand. But we're going to get rid of that one. 3 ways to give something a boost. 1 mana is probably too much. I kind of like the flexibility of the Tolarian Skater over the Blade Dancers. The Eclipse might be good as well. So our first turn play to use all of our mana would have to be Tiny Djinn, Blade Dancer, Skater. Then we just have to hope that we draw good stuff off the top of the deck. So we might play a little bit slower. And keep that Eclipse around. It's a good card. Exhaust 2 cards on entry. So we'll drop a Tiny Djinn here. See what our opponent wants to get done. Might be a Chiron. That's cool. And he's taken a while with this decision. Is he thinking about getting rid of my Tiny Djinn so I don't have it for next turn? Do my job for me. Nah, that'd be silly. It's alright. We'll scout our Skater as planned. Give the little guy a boost. Give him another boost to insulate against them playing anything that can give itself a boost as well on green or blue. And we'll pass. So we ramp. That's nice. We like that. Slow start from our opponent. They have a lot of ways to cheat stuff into play. You know, Swift Djinn turn 1. It's always pretty cool from them. We've got our 1 of Mana Eruption and a Helping Hand. Alright. The Helping Hand's pretty cool here. It helps us maintain the amount of options that we've got going into next turn, because we can take the fleeting off the Skater. So we'll play her. She can give herself a boost, get another one from Basira and Kaizaimon. And then we get to keep her around with the Helping Hand and advance. So we like that. Big fan of that. It's a little known fact in Altered that advancing your expeditions and stopping your opponent from doing the same is a good way to win games. They do choose to ramp to maintain our mana with us. Got two Eclipse here, so we'll get rid of one so that we've got the option of playing Skater Rabbit and Helping Hand, or we can exhaust the Chiron as well, which might stop them from ramping if they play out a Tiny Djinn. And I am considering dropping the Eclipse here,
It's not fantastic to just follow it up with the Fire Rabbit, because one, doesn't use all of our mana, and two, kind of banking on them trying to ramp this turn with a Tiny Djinn for it to actually be effective. We don't have another creature worth 2 or less that we want to play before that, because we don't get the boost from the Fire Rabbit. So what I think we might do is just drop the Skater. We'll pass on the boost for Basira here as well, so that we have the option of boosting our Fire Rabbit. And drop a Theseus, draw a card, presumably bounce Theseus to their hand as well. We've seen that a fair bit. We have played this deck, so that's nice to know. Small misplay from us. We probably should have played the Skater out on the other side. It wouldn't have really mattered. If they have Tiny Djinn plus Chiron here, they have it anyway. So what we'll do is we'll drop the Fire Rabbit. Give a boost to the little guy as well, and then we can helping hand the Fire Rabbit if they drop a Tiny Djinn. They'll be able to block us. From advancing. And it is possible that they would like to do so, because playing the Chiron out plus the boost is worth 2 points of stats, which does block us, and they get to advance in brown. But taking a 1-for-1 we're ahead is generally fine. So they've ramped ahead of us, drawn an extra card off of the Daedalus, and they have access to that at least twice more if they want it. So I don't think there's anything that we could have done to avoid going 1-for-1 there. It's pretty rough for us to want to try and chase on mana here, because keeping all of those cards could have been cool. Alright, the rare Swift Djinn means they get access to an extra mana here, so they could send it reasonably. What we'll do is we'll drop a Kalon Cylinder. If they have Sabotage to get rid of the Fire Rabbit, it's pretty rough for us. But at least we've got our landmark up and running for next turn. Alrighty, ahead on expeditions, but I am starting to feel a bit behind in this game. So what I think we'll do is we'll draw the Eclut. And we'll pass on exhausting anything. So we might have been able to contest here if we played the Fire Rabbit first, then boost it. But that's alright, we wouldn't have had access to it next turn. So we'll defer judgment on that being a misplay. Get rid of the Blade Dancer, because then we've got 8 mana to play out the Clut and the Haven Warrior. We'll get to go first. I think we shall choose to exhaust their Serengar so they don't get to draw an additional card. We'll pass here and hold off on giving our boost as well so that we can... Oh, that's going to be a Sakurabru. If we had permanent removal, probably would have played it here. But what we'll do is we'll gain a boost on our Haven Warrior because it allows us to ramp. And we're going to choose the Eclut here because Sakurabru has 4 stats across the board. We'll ignore. We'll just exhaust their Serengar again. Yeah, we knew that was coming. Fire Rabbit blows us out here? No? No, we've covered for that. That's alright. Chasing back on the ramp here a little bit is good. Duel of Grit and the Mess are a bit rough, but we are going to not choose to play anything here anyway, so we'll pass the turn. Just play out the Mess first. Get that one going, see what they want to do with the remainder of their mana, as much as we can. It's a shame we didn't draw one of the ways for us to remove fleeting off of the Haven Warrior. But we'll use our boost anyway. Basira and Kaizaimon can boost and block on this side. If they have anything to play with their remaining 2 mana, they might be able to stop that. Alright. Hand fell apart a little bit here, so that's a bit rough. Taking a 1 for 2 here and going behind. Not ideal. That's alright. Very little in life is. Two counters on the Mess is good. I'm a little bit worried. A little bit worried that we won't be able to activate it before the end of the game. So we're going to have to try and push to block as much as we can. I think our opponent can kind of just go over the top of us here. That's alright. They don't really know it, but just dropping a Daedalus anywhere really does it for them. So we might see that from them now. Oh. Still going to see it. So we'll drop the Duel of Grit. Eat me energy bars plus Daedalus isn't available to him anymore. So it's 8 plus 2. I'll drop a tiny Djinn. I'll drop the Serengar and see what they want to do. Definitely got enough cards to cover us here, which is rough, but that's okay. Oh, not Daedalus, Theseus! Forgot his name. Truly unfortunate. Oh well. We'll concede this one. Move on to the next game. Didn't see any of our uniques except for the Haven Warrior. So maybe that's a bit rough. Losing the second copy of Three Little Pigs does make your combo a little bit more volatile to find. But that's okay. On to the next one. And we're back with game 2 for Basira and Kaizaimon. Playing second against Sierra and Oddball. So a lot of permanents. We have one copy of Mana Eruption to deal with those. And we have drawn 3 Ecluts, which is too many. This is an awful hand. I'm going to keep the Eclut around anyway. Obviously they're going to be playing heaps into their landmark zone, presumably. And they presented us with an interesting choice right away. We could... It's alright. I think what we're going to do, we could have not played anything, gone down 0 for 2, and then sabotaged the Foundry Armourer next turn. But depending on what we draw, if we draw a 1-drop, we might just play a deal with whatever it is they have out of reserve, plus left in hand. We did draw 1-drops. It's a 1-drop that doesn't necessarily help us right now, because we can't go up 2 for 1 or 2 for nothing with it. So I'm thinking we just play out the Eclut, try and go 1 for 1 here. Fire Rabbit and Keylon Cylinder both help us ramp with the Haven Warrior, so we're going to keep one of those. And I think we're not going to... no. We're playing against Axiom, so we can risk the Biscuit here. Don't have as much sabotage from hand as other colours. And if they play the Axiom's Foundry Scrambler, Axiom Scrambler, not entirely sure what it's called. You know, that's all of their mana for turn anyway. So what we'll do is we'll drop our Bouncer, boost her out of range of getting blocked by anything as well, go 1 for 1 and just, you know, keep playing. Might have been better to keep our opponent on just green here. You know, they have access to 2 colours now, so a little bit more flexibility for them on what it is that they get to play to advance, but we'll deal with it. Alright. Alright, the first of our uniques has turned up. I think we're going to get rid of the occult here. We'll gain a boost on the Haven Warrior. And try and preserve our helping hand for next turn so we actually get to ramp a second time. The risk that we run here... Alright, then get rid of the cylinder, so we're going to have to find another way to get a landmark. Still got 5 of them in the deck. Yep. We'll pass the turn. We're going to have to... the problem with the Haven Warrior, is that we're going to have to pay attention to what we throw into the mana zone. Tells you up here, Haven Seringa, so we can double check that. 2 helping hands, there's too many here. Alright, our stats line up pretty well here. So our plan will be to drop out these 3 cards, the helping hand, the Seringa, and the Warrior. The helping hand will have to target the Warrior for sure here. And they drop a Foundry Mechanic, which doesn't block us, but it does help them advance. So we'll play out a Seringa here. Oh, that's unfortunate. Could have blocked that had we played the Warrior first. Which means if we're going to want to contest, we might have to use... Yeah. Alright, so if we'd played the Warrior and then dropped the helping hand and boosted it a second time, would have actually blanked the removal they had in hand. That's on me, didn't really expect them to be playing Avalanche, but that's cool. Alright, pass the turn, take a 1 for 2, which is disappointing, but could have played around it. I'm thinking this is a point where we try and cash in our ramp, so we maintain parity on mana here. I believe what we do is Pastry Chef. We're going to boost the Pastry Chef here as well with 1. Keeps the boost around, which is nice. And our opponent's just passed, so no reason to reveal anything else that we have in hand. They don't have access to... Oh, they do have access to Sabotage next turn if we can't find a way to deal with the Drill Mole. 2 Tiny Djinns, not what we wanted to see. We'll get rid of one of those little guys. So playing out the helping hand there means we would have drawn a card off the Pastry Chef. but we wouldn't have been able to try and keep it around for another turn. But they exhaust it. We're actually really happy to see that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 with the pastry chef means we can't actually play out all of our creatures. I think it's arguably more important to try and play out the chef and draw a card here. Hooked just to draw a card is fine. And I think whatever we play over on this side will get hooked as well. And then we have to use our 4 mana to beat their 4 mana. A second hooked drawn off that would probably be the only way we can lose here, considering we're going to get off our remaining 1 mana. An additional 3 stats. And if they have it, they have it. But we get there in the end. Hooked wouldn't have done it anyway, because if they move across the armourer, we still actually can test. No, would have tied. That's alright. They didn't have it though. Alright, happy with that one. Got a bit of value out of our unique without having to draw for it. Our opponent's pretty good, so I'm happy with that one. Plus 19's cool. I like to see that. After last week's video, I have been paying attention to that number going up and down. So that dam is broken, and I'm a little worried. Not going to try and put any stock by it, but it's nice to see we're moving in the right direction anyway. Alright, on to game 3. And we're back with game 3. Let's see how we go. We're playing second. Is that 3 in a row? 1 in 8 chance. And we have a bit of a hand here. Alright, 3 permanents is too many. Geez, 2 might be too many. I'm thinking I want to keep the piggy though. Now that we don't have the second one as a backup, it's a little bit harder to justify putting that into the mana zone. I think we'll try and get the mess rolling and hope that the top of the deck provides. Sorry, snacky time. Alright, we're going to decide whether we're playing Tiny Gin or the mess first. Now it doesn't matter. Our opponent's played a card. We've played another one. Pass the turn. It's good to get the mess rolling early. Only running 2 of this, so we don't get to see it as often as, we possibly could. But we're pretty tight on rare slots, and seeing as this deck is still being adjusted, it's good to see what cards work. I'd rather have 3 sets of 2 than a set of 1. 2 sets of 3, sorry. Alright, we could bounce the Magpang Hoarder, force them to play further from hand. I do like the idea of that, but Getting the Serengar rolling is pretty cool too, because we're going to lose to the Magpeng Hoarder if we choose to play the Jin out. Two, three, two. +1 means he becomes a 3/4/3, and we would be a 2/4/2. And they would have something else that they get to play as well. I think we're still going to do it. The reason being that the mess here means that we'll get the 2 counters, and we're obviously going to drop the Tiny Jin on that side. And see what our opponent wants to do. They got options. Reducing the mana of the next card they play means, good things for them. Having access to potentially 5 mana on this turn. They could sleight of hand the Magpeng Hoarder back out to play slowly, which would be reasonable as well. Yeah. Sleight of hand from hand when they have one available. Is odd, so Hathor sort of makes sense, because had they used the one from reserve, they would have had nothing to bounce back, so they can get one of them back, or they can play her out. I assume the card that they have in hand that isn't the Magpeng Hoarder. Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, I thought they might have kept the Magpeng in hand to try and get the extra boost. But yeah, turns out my math is wrong. That wouldn't have mattered in the end. Alright, what do we do here? We have no way to get a boost on the Haven Warrior. They've put one in hand, so we might have to give up on the dream with the piggies, because we have no way to boost the warrior to continue ramping this turn. But if we play out the Kaelon Cylinder and the Serengar and play this turn poorly, we can sort of take advantage of the fact that we ramped this turn and set ourselves up for a better turn in the future. They may fire off that Cloth Cocoon straight away at our mess, so we don't end up getting any cards out of it. Still mana positive. Played it out for 2 mana for free. Cost them 3 mana this turn. But yeah, they have access to Magpeng plus Cocoon. We'll drop the Kaelon Cylinder, assuming that the remaining card they have in hand isn't Sabotage. So their Magpeng stats are 232 plus the 2 boosts is 434. So we could take an advance here. But I'm actually generally pretty happy going down none for one here. So they can play out the Anansi, which they will. Yeah, I made a mistake. I should have played the Haven Serengar out on the same side as the Martingale, so that if they wanted to stop me, they would have taken a 1 for 1. So that's foolish. We're now exceptionally behind. Could have been slightly less behind. Wigged myself out there. I'm expecting to see the Cloth Cocoon out of them first. Oh, they got rid of it. Interesting. Maybe they have another one in hand. Alright, we actually have combo in hand. What we're going to do is try and work towards that. It's a 7 mana combo. We can get there this turn. We'll use the mess. Drop that one. And play out a tiny Djinn. See what they want to do with their remaining mana. No Cloth Cocoon. Means they don't get to get rid of any of our permanents, so we should have access to one of those by the times we want to play the piggies. And they are continuing to cycle cards around. We'll use Basira and Kaizaimon to get a boost onto our Tiny Djinn, so he'll go away next turn. We know they got the Magpeng Hoarder in hand, and they could play Magpeng plus a Nancy. Okay, a 1 for 2. No, 1 for nothing. They play out the Martingale as well. Alright, this is going to be difficult. We do have ways to stop them from advancing, but it's going to get us only back up to parity. Duel of Grit's nice to keep around. I think we'll get rid of the next copy of the mess. Although it would have been interesting to keep it around. We've got 9 mana, so we could have played it plus armor and the piggies. Continuing to cycle cards around. What do they got here? Alright, Will o' the Wisp. So we have as much information as we can get. We know what's in their hand and we know it doesn't actually impact us. So keeping the mess there might have been good. If we can reasonably contest 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9. So if we Haven Bouncer here, and discard the Will-o'-the-Wisp, the only thing they can do is play out their Magpangs. So we might be able to sneak in a cheeky 2 for nothing here. So what we'll do is we'll drop the Haven Warrior and boost the Bouncer. And we'll Duel of Grit away this cheeky little Magpang. They've played him about 700 times. Alright, we've got a double advance. They're going to have one card that we don't know about. We get to draw an additional card off the mess. I think we'll get rid of the Skater here. So we're going to see what card this is. Magical Training's an interesting one. We'll draw a card off here as well. I think we just play out, because we have the 10 mana, we're going to play out the Bouncer here and try and delay a little bit. We'll gain an additional boost. They'll use the Magical Training. We'll drop a 3 little pigs. And the fact that we've got 2 creatures on this side is pretty good. So we're going to do it. Gain a boost on the piggy and the armorer, and we're actually going to alternate which creature gets a boost on the pig and bouncer side. So what that's going to do is insulate against removal. A Sap Duende here is what we need to cover for. Which I think is fine. Because if they Sap Duende away the stats of our Foundry Armorer, we're still gaining 2 each on that side every time she gains a boost. So we're going to do that. Just have to make sure that the stats that we dunk away. I'm going to quickly uncheck here. We've got a minute and a half. The game will warn us
because we get the clicky timer. So now if they take away 13, it'll be fine. And this is why I was wondering if maybe it was a better idea for us to play the second mess out. Obviously we would have lost if we didn't have the Duel of Grit. So it wasn't the choice, but we're going to get an unreasonable amount of counters on the mess, so we can just draw a card every turn here now. So that card works well with these two guys. Big fan of that. Is our timer going down? Oh, it's only non-token creatures. That's alright. Did they find Sabotage? If they did, it's still fine. We shall play out our piggy. If they have a chance to remove it, they will, and we get an opportunity to bounce their Occult. Alright. Bleeding or Asleep. They did have it, but they're so far behind on mana here that we may just get there anyway. Let's draw our card, 7 mana. We'll exhaust their Will-o'-the-Wisp. We've got 3 remaining mana. So we've got an extra 2. So what I think we do actually is play out the Sarangar and give it an additional boost. Off you go. That's fine. We use the support ability on our Foundry Armourer. Send her to the bin, and we make it back. That was a banger. I believe we were behind by 4 expeditions at one point. We managed to thread the needle. Not sure if our opponent drew poorly, but I'm going to take it. That was a super fun one. My heart is pounding. Big fan of it. Massive showcase for the mess and what that card can do when you play low cost creatures. Hit him with a GG. And on to the debrief. Let's go see how those changes worked for us. And there you have it, folks. That's our 3 games done for this week. We had a 2-1 record. We lost to Atsardian Surge, and won against Sierra and Oddball and Fen and Crowbar. So this deck definitely didn't have the legs to go underneath, or finish the game before Atsardian Surge got rolling and started pumping us with all of their mana. But the other 2 decks with their reasonably small ball style were winnable, including one very fun game at the end there. I'm probably going to do a deep dive on that one. I've had a look at the recording, and there's a couple of things where I misspoke and definitely saw a lot of misplays or small optimizations that I could have made that potentially could have impacted the game. Um, this video, I think, was actually littered with those throughout all three of them. Um, you know, so we'll go in on those ones if you want to point out any moments in particular that you want to explain. I've definitely gone back and reviewed these games by the time you see it. So I'm happy to explain what I probably should have done, and if you've got a suggestion, let me know. Either I agree with you, or I can explain why I disagree, which will be fun. This one was good. We're not cheating stuff into play with Aoife and Floral Tent, but we're definitely seeing a little bit more of our deck with those messes. And we didn't really get a chance to showcase the pastry chefs, but I am curious about those. For 5 mana is a lot to play to draw a card, so we might be dropping those off, playing more of the mess. Maybe get rid of 2 of those, play a mess and a merry reunion. That could be an option for us. I think we're going to be down in a clut as well, and probably looking at the bottom end of this deck too. So between the Tiny Djinns, Fire Rabbits, Bravos Blade Dancers, and Scouting the Tolarian Skater, we've got 12 1-mana plays, which is a lot. So maybe we can bump up in another, bump up the average mana value of our cards and fit something else in there as well. So, this one's really good. The Haven Warrior was reasonable for us. Helping Hand plus that lets you ramp and really recover the missing mana orbs, that you're trying to get ahead with the Mighty Djinns that we took out. But it is also a bit of a scary card to play sometimes, because if you put your one of other uniques into the mana zone, you just don't have access to that, and that last game can attest that it can get you out of some sticky situations. What we'll do, maybe we'll go through and have a slight rebuild here. So what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of the Occult. We're going to cut down on the Blade Dancers. I think we'll maybe keep one of those. So we've got the 3. If we take the Pastry Chefs out as well, we end up trying to refill 2 rare slots, 3 commons. So we can look at that. We spoke about it. There's the mess, and if we go in and add a merry reunion, go away filters, press the wrong button, we'll add one of those in, just as a one-of, see how we go. So we're playing to the board a little bit less, and playing out a little bit more. We could look at bumping up Haven Bouncer to 3 copies. We did have that at one point. It's good to see that card, and it's really our only form of sabotage now that we've taken the Pender cards out. And we could also probably reasonably expect to bump up the Haven as well. 8 permanents in order to activate the 3 little pigs claws is probably fine. And at some point we're going to upgrade that Haven Warrior as well. Obviously we spoke about it, drawing the little pigs or the armorer in your opening hand can be a little bit awkward, because you kind of want to keep those around 100% of the time, and having the redundancy of the second little pigs might be worth more than the ramp here. But there is a particular kind of card that I'm trying to fill in this spot with. So we'll go on the hunt for that one, see if we can find something to replace it with. The next time you see this deck, I might just have the pigs in there, or we'll stick with the Haven Warrior for now. Another option could be to try and play into that even more. If we bring the Aoifes back in, 3 helping hands, some number of Aoifes, should be pretty easy to cycle through your warrior and ramp multiple times with that card when you get it. So that's an option and a direction we might take. Um, Alright, I will save a lot of the analysis of that last game to a midweek video. I've got a wedding to go to next week, not my own, that one's coming up later. But yeah, friends getting married, so we might see a game, I might see a video out of me, might not, but at the very least I'll do a deep dive on that game 3 because there are a couple of things we could have done better, but I'll talk about the other 2 games. Etsati and Surge at the moment is a fairly dominant deck, but um, you know, it sort of does what you do, but better in a lot of ways. You don't necessarily need to play awkward cards like the Mess and Merry Reunion in order to see more of your deck, because you're doing that already with the Swift Gins and the Theseuses, and sort of just outvaluing your opponent that way. There is probably only 1 or 2 deck archetypes that can compete with it in the late game. Ones that I've seen are Akesha and Taru stall decks, where they can basically indefinitely stall out the game with Celebration Day recurring through to your hand if they get through the entirety of their deck. So if you can't beat them before that stage, they will just end the game. And potentially some Sigismar and Wingspan decks as well. You know, License Withdrawal just as a card does play into their game by being much more efficient than the big creatures they play, but you know, I think you would have to tech for that one a little bit. In the Sierra and Oddball game, you know, there's the notable moment, if you go back, where they played an avalanche out to get rid of both of our creatures. Had we played our turn out a little bit different, we had the helping hand in hand. So if we played out the Haven Warrior that we had and then helping handed it instead of dropping, I believe it was a Haven Serengar, we would have blanked that copy of Avalanche. They might have still been able to get rid of the Serengar after that fact. I don't remember exactly how much mana they had left, but our warrior would have stuck around, you know. We ended up winning anyway, but we're always looking for ways to get better. Yeah, look back at the video, a lot of things wrong with that third game. You know, should probably have never been in the position to be 4 expeditions behind and our opponent knocking on victory's door, and we managed to claw it back with a bit of luck. But we'll go through all of that next week. This is without a doubt the most fun deck that I enjoy playing at the moment. Might not necessarily be the best one, but as a known spike, you know, infinite combos is kind of my safe space. Whether you like that or not, it's up to you. But yeah, really fun one. I'm glad we played that one. Couple of pretty high rated players there that we beat. Looking at the ratings may have been a mistake for me, because now I'm going to pay attention to it every game, whether I commented on it or not. But it's nice to know that despite it not showing in those little numbers, that we can compete with players who both play this game a lot and win at this game a lot. So that's very encouraging for me. You know, never been the best at TCGs, but enthusiasm is definitely the place to start, and I love playing this game, so let's see what we can do. Alrighty. Thank you for watching, it's very much appreciated. Leave a note in the comments if you want to see something in particular after we come back from this wedding, but yeah, look out for an analysis of Game 3 next week. Alrighty, talk to you soon. Love your work. Take it easy and see you next time. Have a good one.